Our topic is equality. More specifically, what is the degree of the disparity between the equality of African Americans and their white counterparts today in the United States? Historically, the initial role of African Americans was simply a source of income. They were beaten, abused, and starved by white landowners and seen as inferior human beings. In 1865, the slaves were freed. However, African Americans still suffered heavy discrimination until the 1960s when segregation was made illegal. However, today in 2018, are African Americans truly equal? We'll start off by pointing two big percentages. 77% of the United States population identifies as white, and 13% identify as black. However, in politics, blacks go misrepresented. For example, 3% of the current Senate is black. 1 out of the 45 presidents America has had have been black, and only 2 Supreme Court justices have ever been black. However, the House of Representatives does closely represent the United States population, with 12% of the House being black. This disparity might be caused of people's belief that African Americans aren't capable of holding office, or it could be caused by the fact that only 5% of those who do run for office are African American. However, this misrepresentation causes a lack of black empathy and legislation that does without any black influence or insight. Furthermore, there are also social inequalities. We can take at shootings, for example. Police are supposed to equally protect their citizens. However, 31% of those killed by police are black, and many of them have been unarmed. What's worst of all is that police are not held responsible for these killings, and most of them do go unpunished, as if black lives don't matter. Secondly, we also have stand your ground laws that also target black people. Stand your ground laws justify killing if the shooter deems that they were threatened. However, when deeming this shooting justified, race plays a huge factor. If the victim was black, the shooting is more likely to be deemed justified than if the victim was white. Again, stand your ground laws, like police shootings, target black people, and is that black lives matter less to those of white. Furthermore, economically, African Americans are also at a disadvantage. Compared to white males, African American men make 69% of what white males make, and African American women make 63%. These disparities are caused by inequality of opportunity and racial discrimination. In 2018, the United States is still plagued with racial discrimination in the workforce. Furthermore, this economic disadvantage is also caused by inequality of education. The demographics of colleges do closely resemble the national population. However, the demographics of the elite colleges still do not match the national population, with blacks being misrepresented in elite universities. Whites have higher quality education, which leads to higher jobs and more pay compared to their black counterparts. Overall, we can see that blacks compared to whites are not equal, but that is not always the case. For example, affirmative action does favor minorities, especially black people, and does give them advantages in education. However, it is not enough. In order to solve this systematic racism that plagues the country, we must first, as a whole, address that, in fact, we do have a problem, that racism still exists, regardless of what legislation has been passed. Furthermore, we have to expand affirmative action and ensure that there's diversity in the workforce and education. Lastly, we need to expunge stand your ground rules from the books and hold shooters accountable. For the killings. We are all created equal, and we can live as such too.